All right, now we are live. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Excited to have Mei Tao from Monte Carlo here. So thanks, Mei, for joining me.
Yeah, great
Yay.
to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Shinji.
Awesome. So today we wanted to talk about mastering change management with data lineage. This is a dear topic to my heart and also a big topic for data observability. So, yeah, before we dive in, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself and your kind of role and things that you're doing today with Monte Carlo?
Sure. So currently I'm working at Monte Carlo. For those of you who might have not heard, it's a leading data observability platform. We help teams eliminate their data downtime. And I joined the company back in 2021. So being at the company for almost 3 years. And I am on the product team, been focusing on our resolution product and our performance product. And before I joined Monte Carlo, I was mostly working in finance. I was an investor turned operator. And immediately before I dive into a data tool, I was building data platform at a logistic tech startup. So I'm very excited here to talk to you guys about what we've been working on and our thoughts on Lineage.
Amazing. Yeah. So coming from building data discovery tools and something that also overlaps a lot with observability. I've always thought the approach that Monte Carlo was taking around how you guys are using a lot of metadata to observe and also monitor detecting that I felt like was great. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that looks like and how you guys actually implement data observability today?
Yeah, sure. Like you mentioned, we mainly use metadata from our customers and the query logs to detect issues. So we generally approach it with a three-stage process of how we eliminate data downtime. And just for those who are not familiar, we define data downtime as any period of time where the data in your data infrastructure is incomplete, inaccurate, and that can cause issues for your broader business. The way that we achieve that is that first we let you set up these monitors. They could be both out of the box or custom, and these will help you detect issues when they're happening. And the type of issues that we're catching can range from freshness issues on your data table didn't update, volume issues, if there is a anomaly in the amount of volume of your data, or things like schema changes, or field anomalies. So these are the core issues that we started catching, and over the years we've added a lot more other metrics that we're monitoring, a lot more type of custom monitors that we let you create. But these all aim to help you detect issues when they happen as soon as possible. And then the next step after that is helping you resolve issues once you realize that these issues already happen. So we leverage tools like Lineage and like sampling features, and a lot of data-driven insights that are automatically presented to you to help you understand what caused the issue that happened. And then finally, we want to help you prevent these data issues from happening from the first place. So this is what we summarize in a detect and then resolve and then prevent three-stage process.
Yeah, I really like that framework to kind of simplify what you should expect from observability. To me, it's more like the criteria. If you are getting and wants to make sure that your data quality is sound, you want to have these three main parts, right? detection, resolution, and prevention. So how tell me a little bit more about data lineage. I think from our last conversation, you mentioned data lineage was your first product launching into to Monte Carlo customers, and I'm curious how that fits into these three buckets of data observability.
Yeah. So we actually think of Lineage as a core pillar of data observability, along with freshness, volume, schema, distribution, that make
Mm.
up. These are 5 core pillars that we think make up the universe of data observability. And Lineage is really, we think of it as the map that help you navigate your data systems. It's a core piece of the component that enable each 3 stages of the process. So in the detection stage, oftentimes you're not only detecting or want to monitor issues on the tables that you have that are somewhat more upstream. You also want to know if there's any issues that impact your BI dashboard or your data product. So what Lineage can do here is it allows you to define what you really care about, like a data product, and then it can allow Monte Carlo to leverage your data dependency, leverage your Lineage to alert you on anything that happens upstream of an important piece of asset that you have. It's a very impact-focused alerting experience or notification experience. That we're not just giving you a bunch of disconnected pieces of information on issue happening across your data pipeline or your data stack. We are giving like a holistic picture. We can tell you there is a freshness issue on your raw table, and therefore the later stage of transform table was also delayed, and that could have resulted in like field issues in another downstream table. So we are able to tell you the whole story of this entire lineage of data sets had this series of issue, and then these are the impact of this incident together.
So sending a notification because just to summarize what you just said, so this is regarding detection side. Whenever there is one of the 5 pillars of the metadata, whether that's freshness or I don't know, some cardinality. What is the 5 things again? Can you remind me?
Yeah, so we define it as freshness, volume, schema changes, distribution of the data, usually focus on the fields, and then lineage. So anything that happens with your data across any spectrum, we are able to use lineage to piece it together to tell a story. So it's not just, there's one table that got delayed, but these are all the downstream impact of.
I think that's a really important part of observability as a whole. Like we don't claim that we are an observability tool, but we also do a lot of metadata monitoring. So that part of being able to either send notification to the downstream owners of the impacted tables and dashboards, as well as the users of the tables and dashboards. I think it's a super, super helpful feature that you can use Lineage for.
Yeah, it's definitely a main use case that our customers are using Monte Carlo for. And then there's another piece of it that helps in the detection stage, which is I see that you guys also have a popularity score of some sort for your users. What we calculate is importance score, which we leverage these upstream downstream dependency to calculate for each table that we monitor. So
is it based on like the count of the downstream dependencies? Like, what is the definition of the importance?
Yeah, so it's a score that we come up with on our own, and the type of data that we leverage is like how many downstream dependencies this table has, how many upstream dependency this table has. These are the main metrics, and how often are they being used by users. And that helps us understand, how high of a priority it is when something happens to this table. So what we can do for our user is that we can leverage the score and tell you, these are some of the most important assets that a lot of teams and downstream data products are dependent on. You should probably set up monitoring for these. Or there are some tables that are in your production database that if nobody is using it, then you don't have to worry about it, or you can even deprecate it. So this is also something that we leverage to help you prioritize how you want to monitor your data.
For sure. Yeah. Popularity score is something that we also use a lot within SelectStar to help our customers to determine which data sets should be documented first, and also who should be the main owners of the data sets based on usage. So a lot of that, really kind of gives you this highlighted or almost like a heat map of your data assets of what's important versus what is not as important or even like should be deprecated. So I think that totally makes sense on the detection side of observability.
Exactly. Yeah. And on the resolution side, it could be a little bit more self-explanatory. So after you are already notified that there's issues on your data, what you want to figure out is one, do I even care? Do I even need to investigate this issue? Does it impact anything? And then two, what happened? Is it an upstream table or upstream field that caused the issue? So both for impact analysis and root cause analysis, teams leverage Lineage for that. And then on the final step of
actually, let's talk about the root cause analysis a little bit. My last conversation with Roy Hassan, he was kind of like challenging this idea of Lineage being taken as the observability, which obviously, like I'm sure the Lineage alone is not observability. But also the core use cases of Lineage does fall into the root cause analysis. From what I've seen, this is a part where the data engineer who used to might have spent like hours of debugging to find the root cause, using Lineage, they can get through it within minutes. I'm wondering if there are other aspects of root cause analysis that pinpoints to the parts that needs to be fixed, or even tells you what to fix on the observability side that you've seen.
Lineage is really just one piece of it in root cause analysis. It tells you what could potentially be the source of an issue that you're seeing downstream. But the issue itself could be different based on the company, based on the exact event that happened. So it's a huge variety. And there are a lot of things that are easy to check with Lineage, and there are a lot of things that are hard to check with Lineage. The things that are like somewhat easier to check are somebody added a column on a upstream table. Therefore, you have an extra column in your downstream table. These are things that you can quickly check by tracing up the lineage and then looking at the schema. There are also things that are much harder to track, like if there is a volume increase in a downstream table. Depending on how the data is transformed, you might or might not see volume increase in one upstream table. Like you might have 20 other upstream table that you have to check one by one, depending on how familiar you are with the data set, how much in your head that how this downstream table is being created. And there are different type of transformation, different type of SQL clauses can shape your volume change in a different way. So that becomes a little bit more intricate. So there is a wide spectrum of the type of issue that you are able to root cause analyze with Lineage, and how much you can achieve with just checking Lineage and something simple.
Makes sense. Cool.
Um, Yeah. So to wrap up the question, the final stage of prevention. This is something that we kind of already touched on. So how do we, prevent data issues from happening, leveraging Lineage? One thing that can help is as you are, for example, managing data changes, you want to deprecate a table, deprecate some fields, or changing the field type. You can leverage our Lineage or field level Lineage to see what are the potential impact that can happen in your downstream table. This could be either at like a project level or at like a PR level. Something that we create is like a generated impact report as you push for PR changes. If it's related to a DBT model, we can help you get a sense of how many reports are downstream, and what are the key tables that this can potentially impact. So you can commit your code change with a peace of mind.
Yeah, that is, I think, one of the biggest impact that has been like made for like basically a lot of our DBT customers, because there's so many model changes that happen throughout. It's like having that like automated PR from a tool saying that, hey, like the column name that you just changed may affect these other tables and dashboards not loading correctly.
Yeah.
We also have a customer that have integrated our Lineage API into their CI/CD for the production data. So for them, it's the data team, and they just want to sleep through the night, and they don't want to get called because like this pricing model downstream isn't working. Because most of the time when they look at it, it's nothing that they did. It's always coming from the production side. So they actually made a they use GitLab, and they initially built this plugin themselves for it to work with their Docker and all the packaging on the production engineering side. Which I thought it was actually happening even before we had the GitHub integration. So this was like basically what they were saying. Hey, like now we can sleep through the night. This gives us like the peace of mind, and engineers can also move fast without having to worry about like what am I impacting or touching? Can I push this code?
Exactly. Yeah, I hear that sentiment a lot, and it kind of gives other teams the tools to be able to prevent things that will impact, the data team that's usually the only one that's familiar with your DBT models, that are tracking for all the things that are happening and impacting your DBT models. You're transferring the responsibility to other production teams with a tool that they can leverage to do that.
Yeah, because we can trust that it's accurate and it's up to date. If you were to rely on like some data engineer saying that, oh, what about this table? What about that table? That information can be outdated or may not be always correct, because one person may not know like everything that's happening inside the data model. So I think this is like a really good, like basically baseline framework for distributed teams and growing teams that wants to ensure that the changes that they're making is sound, and they can move fast. Awesome. So I guess with that, like you've seen many different areas of how Lineage can be applied to data observability and to many data teams in your customer base. What do you think makes a good Lineage product? I'm sure you've checked out Lineage and SelectStar and other tools that exist in the market. What are the parts that you feel like is important as a product person as you design the first version of Lineage at Monte Carlo? What are the features of Lineage and aspects of Lineage that you feel like is important when someone is considering either adopting a tool or building a tool around their Lineage?
Yeah, it's interesting because just 3 years ago, there isn't really that many vendors that has Lineage.
That is true.
3 years, there's an explosion of, now every YC startup coming up is able to provide a column level Lineage. So we do, like, as consumers in the market, you do have a lot more choice. And people have seen a lot more, options and different UI of Lineage. So the standard is getting higher and higher as product people building Lineage in the space. So I think there is a baseline of requirements that makes a good Lineage, and then there's also things that you could do to make a great Lineage. Since the bar is already getting higher in this market, the things that you will need to build a good Lineage is becoming more. So I think first, in the latest wave of data tooling, Lineage has to be automated now. Back in the days, it's acceptable for you to require users to construct Lineage by hand. By manually defining upstream, downstream data assets, but now it has to be automated. You need to automatically parse SQL code and be able to create the downstream and upstream dependencies. So it's extremely easy for your user to use and is available out of the box. And then you will have to have enough integration to ensure that the Lineage is complete and accurate, so you can see full downstream and upstream dependencies. These will require you to integrate with your BI tools like Tableau and Looker and Mode, etc. And you want to integrate with your upstream sources, Postgres, MySQL, etc. You often want to also integrate with your pipeline tools like your Fivetran, your DBT, your Airflow. So you provide all these context on what created these data assets on top of Lineage. And then UI is actually like a big piece of it. Given how much data you have to present, it could be very overwhelming to show the Lineage map. Just being able to show 15 nodes in one page is already a challenge. And there are so many different types of relationship between the nodes. If there's a way for you to make that visually easy to digest. With the number of nodes and edges on the UI, being able to easily filter and search for the type of nodes, type of edges that you're interested in is a requirement. People often not just want to search by the type of nodes. Am I looking for Looker views, Looker dashboard, or tables, or views, etc. You also want to be able to filter out by names. Oftentimes people want to use regex to filter things out. These are all becoming must-haves for teams when they use a Lineage. Also, a lot of teams want to incorporate their own context. So tags and annotations, descriptions on fields, on the table, being able to easily support that is also what teams require. And I see that Select Start has a really handy feature that a lot of customers love there. And then there's a lot of edge cases that you have to take care of. Not even so edgy anymore. Just tricky design component that you have to take care of, how you present, what happens if you have a table that's self-referencing? What happens if you have a lot of temp tables? Some teams want to see, some teams don't want to see. These are all components of the UI UX experience teams have to incorporate. Other basic things like making the Lineage scalable and performant with so much data on the page. Ensuring that you can manage, access control, permission, etc. So the right team only sees what they're supposed to see and don't see what they're not supposed to see. which are all part of building a decent enough lineage at this point. And then going beyond that, if you want to do a great job building lineage, actually, from that perspective, we're still quite early in the lineage product building experience, especially if you compare to like a map product. So a lot of things that we take for granted, this map product have evolved for so many years that there's so much context, so many use cases built on top of it. But the basic map only tells you, the addresses of places and a direction to get to places. But now, like say, if you're using an app like Resi, where you're leveraging a map to look for a restaurant to make reservations in, you can easily filter for all these restaurants that are plotted on top of your map, and you can easily filter it and see, the stars and reviews and then the pictures on these restaurants. So the use case of being able to find the restaurant that you want to go to, that you most want to go to, becomes really easy with all these, additional features and context that like a company like Resi overlay on their map. And that not only, takes you to the place that you want to go, but also gets you, help you do serve the need that you're trying to serve. So similarly, if you take that to a lineage map, oftentimes when in our use case of, let's say we want to find out where is my schema change coming from at this table that had an unexpected schema change. The job is not to just see what are the table upstream, but the job to be done is to see where the schema change is coming from. So how do you make the product answer that questions as fast as possible? So you might have to, at a click of a button, be able to present all the schema changes that happens, and you can quickly identify what is the root cause schema change that caused what I'm seeing today. And this is just one example of how people using people are using Lineage. So there's a lot more work that us as product people in data can do to serve each of these common use cases for users, leveraging Lineage only as a starting point. And to build a great product, I think there's a lot more that we can do, build on top of this basic product.
Yeah, you're setting the bar very high here. I mean, that's a really amazing set of lists. And I completely agree with you. I think the three things that you mentioned about having it automated and supporting the integrations that you have and having a great user experience are definitely the key parts that anybody should consider when they are looking to implement or adopt the Lineage tool. One part that I would add is something that I actually do also use the analogy of map a lot whenever I describe Lineage and how we are continuously upgrading our Lineage experience. But one thing that I also see as like kind of maybe a different between map versus like Lineage is that for map, like we are primarily using it as a consumer. Whereas for Lineage, we are continuously designing experiences for both the end user, data engineers and data scientists, but also for data managers, whether that's a data governance specialist or data platform teams. And so the way that one thing that I would also put on the list as something that would make your data lineage experience really great is how you can actually use Lineage as a structure or a way to augment your workflow. So you can use Lineage as a map to find what is, the root cause or what's the impact, or filter them to like look for the specific data objects you're looking for. But for if you want to truly leverage the map, like, if you were to do, I don't know, like hyper local marketing or something like that, for the way that I think about that on the Lineage front is allowing users to be able to propagate certain tags just like, it could be like related to notification, but also like propagating tags of, let's say, like a PII classification of the column, based on how the column has been replicated. So I think that you guys also provide whether the column is being utilized, whether the value is utilized, or whether this is used as a filter. I think those are also really important distinctions, especially in BI side. The things that we also do in SelectStar is to kind of look at, is this the value that has been replicated as is? Or has it been aggregated or transformed? Because that tells you whether the data value has been actually, propagated or not. So that could be important on the governance and data privacy perspective. I think another part around this is truly that like workflow of finding, going after, okay, because these are the people or these are the assets and the users that are going to get impacted. Like one of our customers actually used our Lineage API to figure out or automatically figure out which data assets that they will need to give data access control for. So all of their data or all of their users, they have access to their BI tool, but the reports and dashboards, they may not have the access for. So they will request an access, and the internal tool will look at the BI tool, and then we'll look at all the assets that the BI tool is connected to. And depending on the data classification tags and access level policies that they have defined, it will automatically determine what the retention and the access that they should have about that dashboard. So that was like a one part that I saw Lineage being utilized as kind of like the like it is a framework you're using to propagate and also actually building applications on top.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I love those use cases. Even though we're not, our core main use is not for data governance or discovery, we also see a lot of users leveraging, field level lineage and propagate these tags and context across their lineage.
Yeah, I think there's definitely the base level of utilizing Lineage in like within like that user experience. But then once customers like companies start using Lineage through the API and embedding it into their applications, there's like so much more leverage that they can also get on automating their data workflows. So yeah, that's really cool. So I guess like curious to hear a little bit more about like how I guess we did already talk about a lot about like what users can benefit from, like things that companies should look for building versus buy. I guess like I want to hear your thoughts on column level lineage. Like why do you think a column level lineage is so important? Because I do also come across companies that say, well, like we get table level lineage from DBT, that's good enough. Or like Snowflake gives you a table level lineage now. Or they have built an internal tool that gives you like the first level of tables that this query is asking for. So I think, even before one company is like adopting like an actual lineage tool, they are getting some similar information like from one or the other. But like, what would you say is the importance or like why one should consider adopting a column level lineage instead of just sticking with the table level lineage today?
Yeah, it really depends on the needs of the team. And the fact that, Snowflake and DBT hasn't provided column level lineage isn't because it's not important, but usually it's just much harder to build and they haven't gone there yet. And rumor has it, that a lot of these teams are also, planning to build column
They
level
are
lineage.
working on it, yes.
Which is a reflection of how important this tool is for a lot of data teams. So there are certain things that you don't need column level lineage for. Basically, things that are happening to your data on a table level. if your table wasn't updated, and like all the tables that are dependent on it won't be
Like a volume side,
or like
on the queue.
volume.
It
Exactly.
affects all the columns anyway. Yeah.
Exactly. So these are like there's not that many actually issues that don't that can't benefit from having the more granular column level lineage, but these are some examples. But the vast majority of the issues that you will actually want to look closely are on the field level. If there's high percentage of null than normal on your field, which is very common problem. If there's your average of this field that you reflects your like your customer's attribute is out of whack, that's on the field level. And changes to if somebody adding a column, deleting a column, these are all on the field level. And it will be so much faster for you to track these things down with field level lineage. Say you have like a column that got removed from a table. That table will have probably like 50 downstream tables that are dependent on it. If you're only using table level lineage, you will have to look through all those 50 tables to see if there's any extra schema change that happened. But if you have field level lineage, you can narrow down that list to maybe like 5. So it's a much narrower list of things you have to check as you are evaluating impact or analyzing root causes. So it makes your life a lot easier, and it's a much faster process. And the only reason why people don't do that is because they don't have field level lineage, and then they're taking the long route. I think it's just that the tooling isn't as available yet. It doesn't mean there's not enough need for it. It's like when people had lineage, they had to manually track all the query logs and see what are the dependency.
Exactly. Right. A lot of companies, actually, a lot of prospects that come through our door actually say that, yeah, we get the table level lineage, but like, it's not that helpful for us. Like it helps you to kind of like design your new models, or look at just like which data sets to be aware of if I'm trying to figure out what are the related data sets around what I'm already looking at. But like what you mentioned, if something actually happens, then they need to look at like hundreds of tables because they don't know exactly like which of those tables are related to the issue that you're facing. Like even if the column has been detected, if you don't have the lineage of the column, then you will have to look at 5 to 10 times more tables to sift through which effect it's going to have from that column, and vice versa whenever you're looking at because I think most of the time you're looking at the root cause. And I think that is also another part because I think there's a lot of like during the ETL processes, there's a lot of like combining different fields as well as kind of segmenting out fields that you don't really need from the raw data. Like whenever you do a load from Fivetran, like you get most of the customers, like, I think they just load everything, all the schema at once. But then as you're starting to do the data modeling, like you're going to pick out the things that are actually relevant and important for your reporting. So I think this is like where it comes from. Whenever there is a change management that you want to manage more automatically or more effectively, column level lineage, I would say, is really an important piece of this.
Yeah. And for the use case that you mentioned earlier, needing to identify PII data across your data stack, that's impossible to do with a table level lineage. You will have to know, exactly how each field is populated or is impacted to be able to tag, where the sensitive information went. And that's extremely important if you're going through like a compliance audit It
Yeah.
simply, table level lineage simply does not do the job.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. This is almost like why users also demand two databases, that they need both row level security and column level security, not just like row based access control of table levels or
yeah,
schema levels.
exactly.
So
It's easy for us
very
to agree
important.
on the importance of column level lineage.
Yeah, I think but I am with you. It's really hard. I think especially the accuracy and precision as we go deeper, especially with like the whole um, hype around Gen AI. People feel like, well, I can just pull any queries in there and it's going to tell me everything that it's querying. But when you're trying to do this at scale and want to have it as a framework that you are actually relying on, you do want to make sure that it is precise and is actually a deterministic feature. And I think this is also another like important part about Lineage that people may overlook, because they will say, okay, well, checkbox, like this tool supports Lineage. But then once they actually try it with their own data, they may find that, oh, it's not working for like this type of ETL, or this, it's not showing the temp tables, or it either it's showing like too much or it's too little. Like there's, I think all of that intricacies that like comes out whenever you look into column level Lineage on the real data.
Exactly. Yeah. Got to look much deeper than that one little green checkbox.
Exactly. So I guess like with all that complications, what do you think is like, are there any cases that you would like to share that actually brought some financial impact or like ROI, positive ROI for some of the Monte Carlo customers driven by column Lineage?
Yeah, definitely. I wish we do more, quantitative surveying on, how much money it has saved, or how revenue it has generated with whether it's column level lineage or lineage in general. But I can share the ways that it has helped our customers financially. Usually the most common also reason of why people come to us for product, not just observability, but also including Lineage, is there is a need for it, and if we don't provide it, they don't buy it, then their team is thinking about building something like this. So the direct amount of hours that buying a product like this is able to save from your own data engineering team that could be very nascent, to have to build this on their own is direct labor cost that decreases your expense, and also it's time taken from your data team to be able to work on more creative and more productive work than building tools that supports these different use cases. So being able to save costs from labor is a main driver that we've seen from customers coming to us. And then oftentimes the teams that we work with have experienced some kind of data downtime, whether it's their CFO or their other executive yelling at them for a dashboard, having the wrong numbers or stale numbers, or data pipeline that broke and stayed broken in prolonged period of time. In some way or form that they've experienced the pain from these issues, so they come to us for something that can help them find out about it much sooner. And Lineage being part of it, serves the purpose that we've already talked about. So based on the kind of industry you're in, and the type of data products that you're building, the revenue impact from the data downtime can be very, very big. If you are in the ads business, leveraging a data-driven pricing model that is in real time, serving different prices, and any mistakes there will cost you millions of dollars, depending on how long you take to be able to fix it. Or if you are a trading firm, the amount of financial losses that could happen from you messing up, your transaction or your pricing data is also enormous. So these are all areas where we have seen customers in these industry feeling the pain of downtime. Most of them have not, gone to that point of losing hundreds of millions of dollars, but there is a huge potential there. So they want to build or buy the right tool in place to help prevent that. And there's a lot of decision that like a Lineage product can help you make that can save you a lot of money. We have a customer that is using our Lineage to, so we build a 5-chain integration, and that helps you understand, what are the connectors that are upstream of all the tables that you have. So a lot of our customers are using that to identify if there is any connector that I'm paying 5-chain for that don't have any dependencies downstream, then I can deprecate it. So that helps them save more money. Yeah, and we also have a lot of fintech customers that are required to go through compliance audits, tracing how their column level informations are transformed and used. So they are required to have a tool to be able to trace that. And this helps them, save the number of hours that they need to put into complying with these regulations. These are all financial impact of, like Lineage or observability product.
For sure. Yeah, I've seen both cases of companies where you save so much time and money from being able to generate these compliance audit report automatically because you have now Lineage. Like you can, and they don't have to worry about this, like, oh, is this correct or is this like up to date? Because Lineage is going to just like continue, like as long as it's automated, Lineage is going to keep it up. And I think internal review purposes as well as for external reporting purposes, this is one big use case on the financial services front. Regarding the kind of the ad companies or also financial services companies, anytime when there's like machine learning model or some type of like triggered workflows that's running on top of data, I think that is also a very like a critical use case where column level Lineage can really help. So one of our customers, Zometry, actually has claimed that they are saving millions of dollars a month because a lot of their data models, they run a exchange between suppliers and manufacturers on custom parts, and they have a pricing engine that runs on top of based on like whether that's like demand versus like what the market rate of this part looks like, all that type of stuff, to give a very specific quote and like based on the order volume and everything, a very specific quote and pricing. And that is an important engine because it runs 24/7. It is something that applies to their bottom line. So they want to make sure it's accurate and runs correctly. And if there's anything that may happen on upstream or something that may change their algorithm, it is important for them to be know about it right away and be able to triage it as they need to. And this is like one part that I kind of see like a very like a clear delineation of that business value. But I think as a lot of companies are also moving towards having smarter tools, and I would say more educated, expensive people running the companies, this time saved, because like we are all busy, all data team members are so busy, you don't want to have them to spend time on like menial or like manual things. So having this automated tooling that like really supercharges their productivity, I would say is definitely the the core ROI for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
I realize that we only have 10 minutes left. I do have one important question to discuss. This is the last question to discuss. And those who are watching, feel free to add your questions on the comments, and Mei and I will try to address them as much as possible. I think we already have one. My last question that I prepared for you today. What is the role of Lineage as data teams start adopting Gen AI, and as companies have a Gen AI, more Gen AI driven tools in their
Yeah, very, very on-trend topic. You can't, leave any data discussion without mentioning Gen AI. I think, in a sense that Gen AI and Lineage are enabling each other. So at the end of the day, a Gen AI product is a data product. It has all the upstream data sources that it depend on, and it's serving data consumers that are interacting with like your LLM product. Lineage helps a Gen AI product in the same way that it helps any data product. It helps you understand, the data sources that's going into your Gen AI product. So depending on the level of adoption or the maturity of your product, you might have different ways of how you are leveraging your internal data for Gen AI. If you're doing like prompt engineering, you might have a upstream, Postgres or Snowflake, where you're pulling your internal data from to feed a LLM model. So you'll have one of those databases as your upstream source. Or if you are leveraging a RAG approach, you might have your downstream, vector databases that you're dependent on. And if you're like fine tuning your own model, then you might have a different data stack. So the Lineage product, in a similar way, just reflects how the data flows between these stack within your Gen AI stack. And similarly, Lineage is still helping you root cause analyze issues when a data powering your LLM model is going wrong. It is still helping you audit any sensitive personal data that you're leveraging that powers your Gen AI product. And actually, like with more regulation, scrutiny around these Gen AI practices and products, I think there's going to be more attention and imperative with your data that's supporting your Gen AI stack. So I think the need for Lineage will become even more crucial. And the teams that do have Lineage will be able to productionize your LLM products much more effectively and efficiently. So Gen AI is going to accelerate the adoption of Lineage because Lineage help serve that need. And then on the other hand, I think your Lineage, your consumers or your internal team or your consumers' Lineage experience is also being enabled by Gen AI. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do with your Lineage is that you're trying to get a list of fields or a list of tables that fit a certain attribute. So in order to do that, instead of tracing up a map up and down yourself and then getting context on the nodes, it might be not as fast as just asking your language model powered chat interface a question, what is the upstream field that also has a bunch of nulls that cause my issue? And because it's really good at understanding your code, understanding your textual data, it can help you directly get that answer much faster. So we could have a like a new interface where you can get to your use case faster than what you can today.
Yeah, very well put. I completely agree, especially on this like new interface that a lot of more people can access and understand Lineage through LLM is huge. But more importantly, as companies adopt and integrate Gen AI, it's going to be a lot more important to ensure that the quality of output and the product that Gen AI creates uh, is monitored and making sure that you are actually saying like what's correct and what may not be correct. And I think a lot of that will be backed by Lineage. Having a deterministic way of backing what is true and not is so important for LLM, especially for the retrieval side of RAG. So I think this is like where Lineage can really help. Awesome. So let's dive into questions. I guess we do have still just one question. So uh, we have a question from Gerald. So technically, how do you generate column level lineage? Generating column level, table level lineage is easy, but column level is tough. Um, very true. We just talked about how this is so tough that like many other companies that haven't also weren't able to support this yet. How would you or how do you guys generate column lineage at Monte Carlo today? And what are some of the areas that you've looked into in the past?
Yeah. So usually most teams that build column level lineage will start it off from some kind of SQL parser. So what we use is a SQL parser called Red Antler. And so we get probably 80% of the clauses covered with that. And then there's the rest of the 20% that we have to build one by one. It is a massive feat from an engineering perspective. But the tooling in the market, becomes more and more available, and that's why another reason why I think the availability of column level lineage by different vendors will increase. There's another tool that is very popular with startups today called SQL Glot, and that is a very helpful SQL parser that gives you a jump start with this. And I think most of the and they integrate with Snowflake, DBT. I think most of the major, and I think also DuckDB. Most of the commonly used data stack. So if you're
Cool.
thinking about something like that, is worth taking.
Is it open source?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's
actually
helpful.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't.
So that open source tool is built by a company called Tobiko Data. They open
Yeah,
source.
I've heard of them.
Yeah. So and the open source tool for SQL Go is something that they built before they had.
I see. Yeah, I think it depends on what column level lineage you're looking to get. But for databases, you do have to eventually parse the queries. I think this is kind of just the state of the world that we live in. I think at some point, database companies, data warehousing companies will, also start providing the lineage information, which Snowflake is actually starting to do already. So they have table level lineage information, but through also access history, you can get each queries tables and columns that it hits from each query. So you can kind of map your column lineage through that way, which is a method that I saw other companies are starting to take when they are building their column level lineage. I think the limitations with the SQL parsers is as other data warehouses start introducing their own way of ETL that is beyond SQL. Like if you're using a BigQuery function to do transformation that does not have a query that is like left as a query history, that is not something that you'll be able to easily process, and you will have to get that information from the BigQuery. And this is like where this will be really hard to generate column level lineage alone. So I feel like we are you kind of also have to keep your lineage generation up to date if you want to make it as accurate and automated as much as possible. Yeah,
It's
but
always
it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's always the first 80% that you can quickly accomplish, but for your column level lineage or your table lineage to work, it has to be accurate. So you have to go the extra mile to make sure that it's complete and accurate in like telling you what are the downstream dependencies. So
Yeah,
all the work is going into these, especially ETL,
the
like
last mile.
different syntax for different databases, and that takes
Yeah,
the
it's
most
so
time.
important, and that's why like for us we have a dedicated team for lineage, just because like we need to make it, because if you are actually depending your workflows on lineage, you want to make sure it's accurate. I It is a well robust column level lineage. You have companies like Monte Carlo and Selectstar where you can buy from, or I think it is a something that it is a moving target, but I think that there are certain number of vendors that really does provide a higher quality lineage than others, and it is something that we're just commenting that it requires investment to get a good column level lineage. Awesome. I just realized that we are over time. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you found this conversation helpful and if you enjoyed it, please add a comment, share it with your network. This really helps us to continue and also bring amazing guests like Mei. So thanks again. And thank you, Mei, for joining us today.
This is so
I
much fun.
really enjoyed our chat today.
Yeah. Thank you,
So,
Shinji. Thank you for having me.
amazing. Thanks. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
See ya.